Welcome back everyone, it is Eric from Candy, and today we have an updated look at the brand new Scarlet and Violet cards that are going to be coming out early next year. So today we have an updated look at some of the previously announced cards, but we also have a look at a few new ones, including the TCG's interpretation on the whole terastallized mechanic from the recent games. Now, that being said, there definitely are, I think, still some questions in the air about how some of this stuff is going to work and how this set might pan out. But nevertheless, it's just nice to finally have an updated look at some of these new cards. But with that being said, remember to smack that like button to feed that always hungry YouTube algorithm. Let's jump in and check out these new Scarlet and Violet cards. So before we get into what a lot of these cards actually do, just want to point out we do have a new card template going forward, which is kind of expected. Usually each new block of the game does introduce a new look to the cards. This one's no exception. So as you can see, the layout is largely similar to what we've seen from, recent sets, but as you can see, the cards now have this sort of like raised area that connects from the attacks all the way over to the HP here, where it's like a little bit lighter. So this almost kind of reminds me of the look of the cards that we had back during like the Ruby Sapphire era of the game. So I don't know if that's intentional or not, but we are going back to like the EX mechanic. And, there is some parallels between that era of the game and what we are assuming this new era of the game is going to be like. So I don't know if that's like a purposeful, like visual nod to the direction they're taking card design and stuff, but I don't know, maybe that's just hopium on my part. But yeah, the cards definitely do have a new look to them for sure. Though I'm not sure how much I like this. As you can see on Arcanine here, I feel like this lighter area of the card, like it just dominates the look of the card way too much. Like at a glance, this doesn't even really look like a fire card. Like it looks very yellow and like desaturated. So honestly, I'm not sure how much I actually like this new look that they have, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. Feel free to let me know in the comment section, guys. What do you think about the way these new cards look? But getting into what these things actually do, of course, Growlithe, nothing too impressive, but Arcanine definitely more interesting. And this is the first Pokemon, or really the only Pokemon we know of just yet, that has the Terastal mechanic in the card. So as you can see, it has this new section at the top here, and it says Terastal, this Pokemon doesn't take any damage from the attacks while on the bench. So that's good. Obviously, you can't be sniped by things like Greninja and whatnot, but this seems really odd to me because the thing with the Terastal mechanic in the games is that it basically gives your Pokemon access to a new type. And this doesn't really reflect that or translate from the games to the cards in a way that makes sense to me. Like, I just don't understand why this is the effect. One thing I'm thinking about is maybe each Terra type has their own unique sort of like ancient trait sort of effect like this. So like maybe all of the fire Terastal Pokemon have this effect. Maybe all of the water ones have their own effect, etc. So that could definitely be a way to tie the mechanic a little bit more faithfully back into what the games are doing. Or maybe there's going to be like special energies or something that are just for Terastal Pokemon of different types. I'm not really sure, but I've got to say I would be extremely disappointed if this was all the mechanic was offering up. But the attacks on Arcanine, let's check this out too. 2 fire energy, does 30 plus 10 for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So it's basically Outrage, which we've seen on cards like Reshizard, the old black and white Zekrom and Reshiram, etc. Nothing special there. And then Bright Flame, 250, discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. But I gotta say, I'm not too stoked on this thing. I mean, it's kind of hard to power up. We're not Pokemon V, so we can't accelerate energy with things like Arceus as an example. We don't have colorless energy in the attack cost, which means we can't use Mirage Gate. So we are going to be reliant on, we would need Raihan and Magma Basin to be able to power this up in a single turn. So right now, Arcanine honestly seems pretty lackluster, I've got to say. But again, guys, like these are only going to be a small fraction of the cards we're getting. There definitely could still be other stuff in this set we don't know of. But right now, Arcanine, it's cool to see the Terastal mechanic, but this card definitely doesn't look to be very high impact. Okay, so next up, we finally have some of our questions answered about Miraidon and Koraion EX, because back at Worlds, we saw these cards get revealed, but they were like half reveals. We didn't know what type of Pokemon it was. We didn't know if it was a basic or what, but now we can sort of fill in those blanks here. But Miraidon EX, Lightning Pokemon, 220 HP, that's fine. Its ability says once during your turn, you may search your deck for 2 basic Lightning Pokemon input them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. Okay, so this ability was definitely the more enticing of the ones we saw revealed back at Worlds. It is a little bit unfortunate that it is restricted to just lightning Pokemon, but maybe that would be too broken if this was for any type. But decks like Flaffy, I think, would love an effect like this, because you can just quickly use Stormy Mountains to get this into play, or Quick Ball into play, and then fill up your bench a little bit more. And what's really cool is that there's no downside to this. Like, your turn doesn't end or anything like that. And you can actually use this multiple times. Like, if you have 2 Miraidon EX in play, you can basically fill your entire field. Really like the ability. The attack, it's fine. It's basically just Brave Blade, but on a lightning Pokemon. But, you know, maybe that's good enough. But the ability is definitely what makes this card good. And like I said, any Flaffy deck, I think, would probably consider this going forward. I think Koraidon is definitely the less interesting of the two, but it definitely still has some interesting qualities. The attack is basically the same, but just for fighting energy. But the ability, it says once during your turn, you may attach up to 2 basic fighting energy cards from your discard to one of your basic fighting Pokemon, or to your basic fighting Pokemon in any way that you like, but your turn ends. So yes, a lot more restrictive in that regard than Miraidon. Koraion, this is an ability you really only want to use on like the first turn of the game, because obviously on turn 2 and 3 and subsequent turns, you don't want to end your turn. You want to be doing damage and, you know, really get the game going. So if you want to be able to use this, you need to get this guy into play, which isn't too hard to be fair, but then you also need to get 2 basic fighting energy into the discard pile on the same turn, and also get any other fighting Pokemon you want to accelerate energy to into play as well. I mean, I guess you could just power up Koraidon EX if you want to, but I don't really see this being a main attacker. This doesn't really have what it takes to build an entire deck around. But there are things like Hisui and Arcanine V, which you could play, that would like an effect like this. So that definitely is a possibility. But, you know, my knee-jerk reaction is that I'm not like super impressed by this. You know, Miraidon definitely seems like the more obviously good one out of the two of them. But, you know, don't write this card off just yet. Fighting is a type that historically always has trouble accelerating energy, so any help they get in that regard is definitely welcome. So we'll have to keep an eye on this card, but Miraidon definitely seems like the better of the two. So we have a couple reprints. We have Research and Ultra Ball coming back. You know, 2 great cards, but it's honestly just not very interesting since they are already legal and would still be legal even if even after this year's rotation that's coming up. I will point out, it is kind of cool. We do have different arts for each professor's research. So that is kind of cool. Now, one thing that does bum me out a little bit about Ultra Ball coming back is that I have a feeling that since this is getting a reprint, we're not going to see Quick Ball. Since both cards sort of overlap in their roles in a lot of ways, I'm not sure if we would actually see Quick Ball come back in the same set. I definitely could be wrong, since in Sword and Shield we had Quick Ball, we had Evolution Incense, and I also think Great Ball, if my memory serves me correctly. So, I mean, we definitely could have more Pokemon search effects in Scarlet and Violet, but I'm just not sure if we're getting Quick Ball specifically, since it is mechanically pretty similar to Ultra Ball, which would bum me out. I love Quick Ball, one of my favorite cards we've had in Sword and Shield, and I'm really going to be bummed if it's not making a comeback, or anything similar isn't going to be making a comeback. But either way, it's still nice to have Ultra Ball. Fantastic card either way. And for our last reveal from the main set, we have Beach Court, which is kind of a reprint of Sky Arrow Bridge, which is a very good card back in, I want to say it was Next Destinies. I want to say Next Destinies or Noble Victories, but I think it was Next Destinies though. Either way, card did the same thing, but it reduces the retreat cost of basic Pokemon by a colorless energy. So I think the big deck that comes to mind for me is that after rotation, we're going to be losing Scoop Up Net. We're going to be losing Air Balloon, which really does, I think, give Lost Box decks a kick in the nuts. So it's nice we have something to help the Comfy engine still be able to function a little bit. Beyond Lost Box, off the top of my head, I'm not sure what really wants this. But nevertheless, Sky Air Bridge was a card that saw a good bit of play at one point. And there's some decks right now in the format that would kind of like this. So Beach Core, I think it is perfectly fine coming into the format. Like to see it. So like I said, those are going to be all the reveals from the main set, but We also did get some reveals from some starter decks that are also coming out. So, of course, we have this little guy, Sprigatito. Definitely excited for Meowscarada. That was my starter in Scarlet and Violet, but, you know, no starter evolutions just yet. But here we have a Lucario EX. This was a card we also saw get revealed back at Worlds, and we do have a better look at it now. So, Aura Sphere does 160 and 50 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Honestly, not a super interesting card by any means. It's kind of okay. I guess we can power this thing up with Koraidon EX if we really want to. But overall, I think this seems pretty low impact. I don't really see what we're beating with Lucario. Let's see. Next up, we have Ampharos EX. Elect Ball, 60 damage, and then Lightning Tail, Lightning 2 colors, does 140, and you discard 2 energy, or you may discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. If you do, the attack is 100 more. So this seems kind of low impact just because 240 is an okay amount of damage, but we're not one-shotting Pokemon V-Star. We're not one-shotting Stage 1 or Stage 2 Pokemon EX. So at that point, it's kind of like, what are we doing here? What's the point? Now, I will say it is kind of cool. We can discard like double turbo to pay for this if we want to. And also, if we're already playing like a Flaffy deck, we're playing a 4/4 Flaffy line, we can play like one of these just in case, just have like a big bulky multi-prizer to go in with at some point. So that's an option, but I don't think Ampharos is groundbreaking by any means. I don't really see us building around this card. We also have Mimikyu EX. So again, another card we previously did see get revealed. But we definitely have a much better look at it now. We can actually see what the attacks do. So Void Return does 30, and you may switch this with one of your bench Pokemon, and then Energy Burst for a Psychic and 2 Colorless does 30 for each energy attached to both active Pokemon. So this seems pretty low impact, if I'm being honest. Like, there's definitely ways to get a lot of energy on Mimikyu. Of course, we have Shadow Rider, and then we also have Archeops. So actually with 2 Archeops, let's see. If we could accelerate all 4 double turbo energy and deck to this thing and take like a giant one shot, which would be kind of impressive. Yeah, this guy's just going to get return KO'd. You're going to lose all of your energy. But who knows, maybe at some point this could be a partner for Archeops if we still have ways of accelerating like some sort of special psychic energy after rotation. Who knows, maybe, I'm not sure, but yeah, card doesn't scream like super competitive to me right out the gate. Then we have Nemona. So again, kind of like research, we have different arts for each game that came out. Kind of cool, but at the end of the day, this is just hop. It's just draw 3, nothing special. And then the last card is going to be Cyclozar EX. This is a promo over in Japan, and it's nothing too special either. Just 30. You can accelerate in energy, or you can do 180 and not attack on the next turn. So one thing you may have noticed about a lot of these cards is that they're not that good. And that's sort of been a lot of the discourse around these card reveals over the past couple days. And I think a lot of people came into Scarlet and Violet, or are coming into Scarlet and Violet, with really high hopes for the TCG. There's a lot to really be excited about, but these cards really aren't paying off that excitement. A lot of these are really low impact, and I think it has a lot of people feeling a little bit down in the dumps about the future of this era of the game. But I just want to remind people, guys, first of all, this is a promo card. And then a lot of these other cards are from Japanese starter decks, which also historically don't have the best cards in the world. Like every now and again you get a banger, but for the most part, the rule, not the exception, is that the cards in these starter decks are going to be really mechanically basic and uninteresting just because they're made to help people get to learn the game and just get going with the TCG. Definitely the best cards we saw are in the core Scarlet and Violet set, with Miraidon and Koraion probably being, the most interesting, with Miraidon leading the pack here, I think, in terms of being the most competitive. But I will say I am still a little bit bummed about Arcanine EX and the Terastal mechanic. But at the end of the day, guys, there's going to be, I think, 78 cards in each of these sets. So when they all get merged together, we're looking at, 100 something cards in the core sets here. And this is only what, like 7 or 8. So there's still a lot that we don't know. And I am still curious to see if there's more to the Terastal mechanic that we don't know about, because I'm going to be really bummed if this is all there is to this mechanic in the TCG. But that being said though, guys, I definitely want to hear from you down below in the comment section. What do you guys think about these new card reveals? What do you think of the Terastal mechanic? Do you think this is all that there is to the mechanic, or do you think there is, something else more interesting that we just don't know about? Feel free to let me know your full thoughts down below in the comment section. But if you guys did enjoy today's content, as always, remember to leave a like on the video. And if you're feeling a little bit extra generous and want to take that support to the next level, you can also become a patron at patreon.com/rarecandytcg or pick up some merch at rarecandytcg.com. But as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.